Hi there, Peter Temes, founder and president of the Institute for Innovation in Large Organizations, the ILO Institute. I want to talk today, just for a minute, about Jeff Bezos' wandering heart. And the reason I'm using those words is Bezos was interviewed not all that long ago about his foundation. He had committed another $2 billion to the Day One Fund, doing a lot of good work in the world. And while being interviewed about this, he's talked a little bit about his philosophy of business and his philosophy of life. And he said this, he said what he's going to do in the foundation, and by extension, this is a bit of his telling the story of how Amazon grew. He said, we're going to wander a little bit, right? Meaning we're going to do some experimentation that's not necessarily linear, A to B to C. We're going to figure out where the action is. We're going to do a lot of little things and make a lot of little bets to find where the market or where the social impact really is, and then we can ramp that. That is in the wheelhouse of best practices for innovation in large organizations. But he goes on to say in this interview, we're going to wander a little bit. Hey, look, you know, the best decisions I've made in my life, and in business, Bezos said, are based on heart and intuition and gut. And if you know Amazon, if you've worked at or with Amazon, I think the response you'll have is, huh? Because that's not Amazon culture, really. But Bezos goes on in that interview to say, you know, he's talking about we're going to wander and it's going to be gut and heart. And he just says as a quick aside, now anything you can do with an analysis, you should. But, right, one way to look at a lot of what Amazon has done is it's moved that portion of its business practice that you can use analysis for and expanded it to be, frankly, most of what they do. Bezos isn't really being wrong in his self-description, at least not in principle. In practice, it has been his habit to go a little bit with gut and heart and wandering, and then really look for where the analysis opportunities are and hit that hard. And I want to look a little more specifically at what this all means. You need to know where Bezos comes from, right? So the notion that he jumped in the car on the East Coast when he was in his early 30s, drove out to Seattle, and you probably know this story, got an old door and put it on little pylons, and that was his first desk. I think there's a lot of truth to that, but he was not the crazy entrepreneur. He was at that point a very young senior vice president for a technical hedge fund called D.E. Shaw. You have to know a little bit about what Shaw is and does to understand what analysis means for Bezos. David Shaw was a professor at Columbia University who didn't get tenure. He walked away and he said, well, I'm going to take what I know and I'm going to go into the money management business. In 1985, he set up his fund. In 1995, he gave an interview to, I think it was Harvard Magazine, in which he said we were fortunate that we built our algorithms as early as we did, starting in 85, because it only cost us $100 million to build those algorithms over those last 10 years. If we started now, that would cost $1 billion. And when I read that, my head spun. I was like, hang on, you're talking about algorithms. You spent $100 million on math. And it's math that now you'd have to spend $1 billion on. That seems crazy, but that's that competitive Wall Street technical arbitrage world, right? Where you say, look, there were two financial instruments that are somehow related and they're off by a quarter of a penny. I'm going to buy millions of dollars worth, lickety split until that quarter of a penny gap collapses and everything is as it should be in an efficient market. And in the process, I'm going to make a lot of money on that quarter penny market irrationality. I will be the tool of rationalism returning to the market. You know, it's like a boat that's really good at being stable. A wave will come, and then all those tools built into the boat, all the architecture's intelligence will right it. Technical arbitrage, when it works well, is a tool for righting that boat when it's a little bit out of whack. That's how David Shaw makes money, with $1 billion worth of math and analysis of these complex global markets. And Bezos was really good at it. So Bezos comes in learns what they do with his enormous aptitude, right? Engineering graduate from Princeton, really interesting fella. And then he sees the opportunity and goes out and starts Amazon with analysis, with not just a little analysis. Remember, he's on stage saying, do it with your heart, wander, but do analysis when you can. His sense of what analysis is and what analysis can do coming out of D.E. Shaw is a million times deeper and broader than what the average person might think he means. I like the fact that he's leading with heart. And I think he really means it when he talks about wandering, because Amazon is a culture that makes tons of teeny tiny small experiments to ping the market rather than predict, to discover. And then it piles in with its power to look at the kinds of transactions and service delivery that the market really wants, that customers really find value in. They do it very efficiently and at low cost. And they're still paying their employees a minimum in the warehouses at the lowest end of $15 an hour. Plenty to uncork there to talk about how they can do better. But we need to respect the fact that when Bezos says heart and when Bezos says wandering and gut, he's not lying to us, and I don't think he's lying to himself, but he's speaking from the perspective of the most analytical intelligence you can probably find anywhere. And when we look in our firms about how we want to borrow best practices from Amazon, and that's something we probably should be doing, we have to be careful not to be misled by his very genuine conversation about finding paths. He loves to find the path with a little bit of wandering and a little bit of heart. And then he's got what is today probably the world's greatest machine for analysis that will follow in and really tune things based on what we learned yesterday, based on what we learned 5 minutes ago or 5 seconds ago. You can thank D.E. Shaw for some of those habits. And I think if you're a customer, if you're a business partner, even if you're a worker, it is your role to help Amazon live up to its highest stated values and to help Mr. Bezos. He might not feel that he needs our help, but to help him remember his ideals, which I think he does believe. But boy, in the cut and thrust of what this guy does every day, they are so easily lost. Things to learn, but roles we can all play in whatever function we have inside, outside a company like Amazon, and especially in our leadership in our organizations. Take the lesson, pay attention to your heart, create opportunities for the folks who work for you to work from their heart and to wander, and then capture what works and really drive it and use the analytics, use the brain power to do it as best you can to serve your customers. I think that's what we take away from Bezos today. I hope this is useful for you in your role leading innovation in large organizations. Please come and participate with us, the Institute for Innovation in Large Organizations. We have conversations that begin with ideas like this around the table with some of the most intelligent, engaged, and effective leaders of innovation. And there's a place for you. Thank you, guys.